I swear, excuse me, these last 2 days have been so crazy that I've only been able to get out like a couple of videos when I usually try to do three or four. Sometimes they only get a few hits, and that's okay. Like I mentioned plenty of times, I'm not one of those creators that is constantly saying, like, subscribe, and do all that. um, and since my computer updated, it, my page or my channel kind of looks, well, it didn't look as cool as it did before. Let me just say that. I had a nice intro, a cool outro. Uh, but yeah, ever since the update, editing and adding the intro and outro have just, yeah, it won't work. So, got my buddy who was a networker in the Marines. Well, he's actually my cousin now. Was my best friend. Now he's my cousin. Married my cousin. And they have a nice, happy little family going on there. But, anyways, yeah. Hopefully, he'll help me fix it. But in the meantime, just a quick public service announcement. Um, all my videos up until the end of June are all from YouTube Premium. You will never see an ad. You'll never see a skip an ad. None of that. Um, One of the things I do for a living is I'm an actor. I just got finished shooting my first ever feature-length film. And prior to that, I filmed two commercials for YouTube. And so when it came time to renew my premium for YouTube, I decided to forego that because I really want to see the commercial. Uh, Being the actor, I know what I'm the main protagonist, but, there's others in the commercial. But I'm eager to see how they edited it and how it comes across given the nature of what the commercial is about. So forgive me when you see any advertisements or anything like that. Uh, there's only one reason and one reason only why they're playing. So, yeah, as soon as I'm able to get a copy of that or, I see it, boom, it's right back to premium. But in the meantime, uh, I have seen just about every single, well, no, I know I've seen every single one of Mike O's videos from that chapter. And this one, by far, this dude is a big piece of shit. I don't usually like to judge people. You'll hear that in a lot of my videos. I hate prejudice. Maybe because I went through it a lot when I was in a preparatory private school. You know, hear a lot of the little remarks here and there, and I never let it, get to me. So early on, I just learned, I'm not going to judge a person unless I really know, for a fact that they're just a all around piece of shit. And this guy is definitely that. And given the work that Mike O from that chapter puts into every single one of his videos, man, go show him some love, subscribe to him, freaking like his videos. I mean, he does a hell of a good job. I, in fact, sent a message and said I would love to get his take, being from Colorado, on John Benet Ramsey and see what he could dig up. So hopefully one of these days, he might hear that from me, or who knows. But yeah, I would love to hear that take on it, his opinion on it. So in the meantime, yeah, you'll see what I mean about this guy. He's just, yeah. So without further ado, here we go.
Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike. Still. And in this old video, we're gonna yap away at a few things, a few yokes. One yoke in particular, and we're gonna talk about a search in Southern California. A couple of them. In the year 2010, I remember it well, San Diego and the surrounding areas were abuzz. This will eventually lead us to a guy you won't like. He doesn't really help himself when he speaks. And, get this, he's a turd. Literally and figuratively. Actually, scratch that. Literally and literally. Let's give it a go. Get a load of this, right? If you were to drive maybe 30 minutes northeast of San Diego, maybe you have, you would encounter the city of Escondido. Means hidden in Espanol. They're doing a dang up good job. Though I guess it is kind of hard to keep 150,000 people Escondido. Well, that's what it is today at least. About 10 years earlier than today. About 10,000 people less. And one family in particular was there. The Dubois family. Amber was the oldest child in the family at 14 years old. The parents, Carrie and Mo, were separated but still close, and she had one younger sister. Amber was a quirky, free-spirited young lass, different from the other kids. She avoided malls, like a plague. She was introverted, artistic. She did things at her own pace. Amber attended Escondido High School, or she had just started to. She was actually taking on extra classes because she wanted to finish up earlier. She wanted to be out of there. Or at least that was the plan until February 13th, 2009.
I hate hearing that because that's my birthday, man. I know there's no connection or anything, but I mean, most people already say like, oh, February 13th, that's a bad day. Trust me, anybody born on February 13th has bad luck. And I will be the first to say I have bad luck. It just seems to stick to me like white on rice, like, yeah. I could go on with analogies all night, but let's get back to the story.
That day, that Friday morning, she was walking to school as usual. Well, except a little more excited at this time, as she was going to buy a lamb. She was doing a project for Future Farms of America. So gotta get that lamb. Has to be done. And so she was carrying a check for 200 big ones as she walked the roughly mile from her house to her high school. She never finished that walk though. That afternoon, her stepfather, he was surprised when she never came home from school, because she was very, on the dot. He called her, no answer, texts, nada. So he rang up the school, and the teachers said they were surprised at her absence that day. The teacher, she was supposed to give that check to for 200 smackaroos. They never got that check, and she would have given it. She was so excited about this farming project, she loved animals. So something was very wrong. This was very worrying for predictable Amber. The knocking on neighbors' doors began, followed swiftly by Nina's, as there was no sign of her. No sign of her at all in quiet, safe, northeastern Escondido.
A 14-year-old Escondido girl is missing tonight, and her parents are asking for the public's help to find her.
And she was bringing a check to get her lamb, and she was excited to get there, and she's never missed a day of school. She got perfect attendance. Very out of character for her not to show up there.
Wow.
With no sign the next morning, Rory mounted and mounted. They did find some witnesses who saw her walking to school that morning, and they saw her speaking to a man after 7 a.m. Well, that was it. The day after she was last seen, her phone was turned on for roughly 20 seconds. Then never again, which is heartbreaking when you think that this might give the parents some hope only to be dashed. But it did connect to a cell tower near where she lived.
All these lit candles and stuff, hopefully it's going to be lighting Amber's way home. Any sign that you can give us to where you're at, anything, please come home.
In all my life, I never thought I would go through something like that. And I don't wish that to my worst enemy. We're going to find her, are we?
If Amber was abducted, she's got a fighting chance.
She will make sure whoever it is, she'll drive them up a wall. But she's a survivor. I don't think in my heart, I don't think she's hurt. I think she's just in a bad situation she's trying to get out of.
There were a few sightings, about town. Following up on them led to nothing.
I'm trying to keep things positive, but it's really hard after it's been 5 days.
This, captured the nation. This is disappearance of 14-year-old Amber right outside the gates of her school. This is big old news.
Was there any suggestion she was unhappy at home?
No, absolutely not.
Tonight, hundreds of San Diegans had joined the search for the missing 14-year-old Escondido girl, Amber Dubois.
More than 24 search parties comb the local mountains from dawn to dusk.
Search groups return from an all-day trek through local mountains, desperate to find something helpful. Her family says she hasn't been seen since she walked to Escondido High School last Friday morning around 7 a.m.
But still, with this many eyes and this many, media outlets, they found nothing. And I mean, jack shit nothing. They got a lot of people who said, oh, hey, that kind of looks like Amber. I'll ring up the police. Nope. Turns out there's a lot of people who look like Amber, but aren't Amber. Herself just disappeared into a black hole.
Tonight, police have called off the physical search for a teenager who's been missing for 6 days now.
More than 3 weeks ago, today, hundreds of volunteers came out to help search for Amber Dubois.
14-year-old Amber Dubois, who's been missing for more than 2 months.
Tonight marks 5 months since an Escondido teenager vanished.
Missing for 7 months.
Well, the family is saying that detectives aren't doing enough to find her.
That would have to be one of the worst things. Being a father myself, I have a 7-year-old. And so, luckily, still very dependent, on her parents. And as a parent, it's... I mean, I can't even put into words. You just want to know one way or the other. Even if it's, gonna crush the living shit out of you. I'd rather know than not know. And I mean, I cannot believe about that piece of shit Ariel Castro. That guy who kept those 3 young women in his house for what, like 10, 15, 20 years, something insane like that. And then fucking, excuse me for cussing, but then takes a coward's way out and kills himself. I mean, what a piece of shit, That just, that really is just heartbreaking beyond belief.
There is no trace of the teenager.
Over the months, volunteers dwindled, as did enthusiasm, as it turned to weary resignation. She wouldn't be found. These things just happened. That was the mood for everyone except Amber's parents, of course. They would not stop, even when the 1-year anniversary came and went. And what also came around that same month was it happening again? Right at the 1-year anniversary, 10 minutes down the road from where Amber Dubois was last seen. It was the 25th of February 2010. 17-year-old Chelsea King went jogging in the Rancho Bernardo Community Park. In the afternoon, she was going for a 5-mile run. She never came home. Her car was found in the park's car park. Chelsea often went out jogging on that trail. It was well used, it was safe, nothing new to her. She lived in the community of Poway, a rich part of town, and very, very safe. Chelsea was an only child, very near and dear to her parents, as her birth was difficult. Chelsea was popular in school, smart, was a peer counsellor, played French horn, was on the volleyball team, did cross-country running, wrote poetry, but nearest and dearest to her heart was the environment. She was planning on, following her passion, which was like environment and that kind of stuff, and she had a lot going for her, as I listed already. When she applied to 11 different colleges, she got accepted to 11 different colleges, wow. But she wouldn't make it to any.
Why do I care so much what people think about me? I think I'm gay.
She usually went for a jog after school, more often though in her own neighbourhood. But this time, she wanted to jog this trail in the park to scope it out as part of an environmental project she was working on. When she didn't return an hour and a half after she was supposed to, her parents followed up on her, went to the park, found her car, didn't find Chelsea. And she was reported missing at 7:20 p.m. Less than like a minute after the police were notified, they were immediately like, hey, this is Amber Dubois again.
The round-the-clock effort to find the missing Poway High School senior continues. Track and cross-country star's parents reported her missing Thursday night when she didn't return home from a run. Her locked car was found at the Rancho Bernardo Community Park with her cell phone, wallet, and iPod inside.
Our daughter is the kind of girl that you dream of. She's the kind of kid that everybody wants as a parent. She's respectful, she's bright, she's caring. She's everything that you look for in a great person.
Law enforcement has vowed to continue this search for as long as it takes. Chelsea's parents remain hopeful she'll be found alive.
The focus is still on getting Chelsea home.
About 2 miles from her car, in the park, underwear and socks were found. Blood was found. Pretty much everything that could be done was done. Border Patrol, FBI, anyone on the sex offenders list. Tips after tips after tips came in. Amber's parents took part. Later, one of Chelsea's shoes was found, far from where the other garments were. The lake in the park was searched, were birds involved, but other than what was already found, nothing else. The weird was that her car, shoes and underwear were all found relatively far apart in the park, especially, one that was so used. If she had been taken against her will, it would have been, she was taken far and on foot. A second shoe and sports bra were found, not far from where the underwear was. It looked like a trail was forming, and what would be at the end was not good.
We're just praying for Chelsea to get home, to find us.
They are literally moving heaven and earth to find this little girl.
Anybody out there, if you know anything, please just help us bring her home.
So as this was, making major news, as it like Amber Dubois, a lot of eyes were on it, someone came forward. It was a jogger who also used that park all the time. And she said that 2 months previous, back in December 2009, she had been out having a jog and she was attacked. She had been able to fight this fucker off, and she gave the police a description. It was a white guy, 20s, stocky build, short brown hair. She said that as she was out having a jog, he just rugby tackled her, pinned her to the ground. Now, luckily for her, she knew self-defense. She knew taekwondo, so she clocked him with her elbow in the face. Not sure if you need self-defense to know to elbow somebody in the face. But anyway, he fell back. She legged it. And so the description of the man she gave, that same guy was seen in the park the day Chelsea King disappeared. It took days before the clothing could be analysed. And DNA was found, coming from two different people. One, Chelsea. The other, a man. But not a, like we usually see an unidentified guy at this time. This wanker was on the sex registry. Meet convicted sex offender John Albert Gardner III. And he certainly was that. See, I can make jokes about Maxon too, you guys. John had been in prison for 5 years after molesting a 13-year-old girl back in 2000. And when police originally spoke with all the sex offenders in the area, they missed him. They missed him because his registered address was his grandmother's house in a separate county 50 miles away. He was actually living with his mother and his stepfather in a house right on Rancho Bernardo Park. John was 30 years old and, as I said, living with his mother and stepfather near the very park Chelsea disappeared in. On the 25th of February, when his mother came home from work that evening, he wasn't at home and hadn't answered any calls or texts all day. John's mother, Kathy, she was worried. He'd been behaving erratically, mood swings and some suicidal tendencies. He'd been having mental health issues since he was 4 years old. His behavior as he grew older became more and more unhinged, described as seriously emotionally disturbed. He partook in illegal substances, not usually great help, and had been hospitalized psychiatrically countless times. In February 2010, Kathy would be worried again. After all, Kathy believed her son when he said he had done nothing wrong. When he was arrested in 2004, arresting that young girl, he said he didn't. Oh, you're wrong. Didn't do anything sexual. I just smacked her. Which is also not fine. Kathy thought, she had a crush on him. So she was just making it up for attention or whatever. Wrongful prosecution, she thought, hadn't helped his mental state at all. He was close to the edge. And before he was arrested, he had wanted to be a math teacher. And those hopes were dashed after he was sent to prison. Whoa, he can't be a maths teacher anymore? It's devastating. He eventually returned home that night, the 25th of February, when Chelsea disappeared with a snake in his hand. A snake that was missing its head. He was wiggling it about the place, saying, hey, it had tried to get him, but he got it instead. He was also covered in mud, dirt, and scratches. He also had, like, real crazy-eyed Manson lamps. So, a few days later, when his DNA matched what was found on Chelsea's clothing, he was put under surveillance. They were watching him, hoping Chelsea was still alive. He was later found at a bar, wearing wet and muddy clothing. And so the police took him in and did a lineup for the woman who had been attacked months before, and she instantly fingered him. He was arrested and interviewed about the disappearance of Chelsea King. He said nothing, even when confronted with his own DNA. He said he was being falsely accused. This is a load of shite! You got the wrong guy. And guess what? I bet you're gonna try and pin Amber Dubois on me too. Yeah, he said that. Red flag. In fact, there were so many red flags about John Gardner, it's amazing. He was still out and about.
John Gardner stood stone-faced in the San Diego courtroom as he was charged with raping and murdering 17-year-old Chelsea King. Gardner is already a convicted sex offender, admitting to molesting his 13-year-old neighbor in 2000. Investigators think he may be the man who attacked a 22-year-old woman in Southern California this past December, and could also be responsible for the disappearance of 14-year-old Amber Dubois.
I don't believe that Gardner in this case had any chance of rehabilitation. This is a serial pedophile, a serial sex offender.
A psychiatrist who did an evaluation of him back in 2000 labeled him a danger to society. Here, quote, "The defendant does not suffer from a psychotic disorder. He is simply a bad guy who is inordinately interested in young girls. However, his predilection towards younger girls is a problem. He manifests significant predatory traits and is a danger to the community." This was a warning unheeded. It was kind of unheeded though, because, you know, opposite that, they had a load of people who came forward when he was arrested saying, he's a great lad, stand-up fella, love him, sound guy. They all thought he had a good character. He had nothing like, you know, predatory, as these psychiatrists would say, in him at all. They were wrong.
At the time of his sentencing in 2000, Gardner had several people write letters of praise on his behalf. Jennifer Tripp, who dated him in high school, wrote, "Never once in the whole time that I have known John have I ever felt threatened or scared."
Supporters came in enormous numbers for a candlelight vigil late last night to mourn the teenager's tragic death. And somehow her parents found the strength to attend this vigil to thank this tight-knit community for prayers and support.
One of the nicknames that I've always called my daughter is my angel. And she's my angel forever.
Police discovered what they believe is her body in the county park where she went for a run.
This is the area that we had been searching, but unfortunately we missed it because it was in a shallow grave.
Chelsea was found 5 days after she disappeared. FBI divers found her in the lake.
I feel like I'm spending way too much time dealing with other people's problems. How do I set boundaries with them?
John was in court the very next day, charged with murder.
Mr. Gardner wishes to enter a plea of not guilty to both counts and deny the allegations that are attached thereto.
All right. Not guilty plea to be entered. Denial to any and all allegations.
The public reaction that John was living in their midst but not registered there was unmissable, especially towards his mother. John's mother, Kathy, she worked as a nurse in the behavioral unit of her hospital. If anybody could have recognized the signs of a person who would be this dangerous, well, she should have, but maybe because it was her son, she was blind.
Kathy Osborne is a registered nurse at Scripps Mercy in the behavioral health unit, and judging by these photos, she's a partier. These risque pictures obtained by 10 News show Osborne and a group calling themselves the Hash House Harriers.
You know, that's one thing that I don't really get. There is not a person on this earth that cannot say there is a definitive line between your career and your professionalism and what you do in your spare time, your free time. You're not doing anything to break the law. I don't happen to drink anymore. I stopped drinking about 10, 15 years ago. And I know I've probably, if there's pictures out there of me drunk, I probably look all the fuck out of it. But I mean, you know, flashing the camera or something like that, I mean, I've never flashed. But, you know, I know many of women who flash, you know, when they're drunk or, you know, inebriated. I mean, same thing. But, I mean, to use that as part in your story is just, I don't know, it seems a little petty to me. Now, this is in no way, shape, or form saying that, you know, she like, you know, I wouldn't approve of her condoning her son's actions or alleged actions up until the trial. But kind of knowing his history, she probably did turn a blind eye to many of the things that, you know, were going around and just didn't address them. And a lot of the times you hear it because, you know, she may be frightened of him. He looks like a stocky, you know, dude. And, you know, this is his mother, and it's not a far stretch to say there's some fucking sick kids out there that will kill their parents for no goddamn reason. And yesterday, one of the videos I uploaded was a great example of that.
Running the hills around Lake Hodges and other trails and engaging in some wild activities. A co-worker emailed 10 News with this. She knew he was a danger and never reported him. Her judgment could let other people out of a psychiatric facility that should not be.
Not only that, there was also the unheeded warnings about him. He violated his parole hundreds of times, and nothing happened. And the connection to Amber Dubois was also admissible, who went missing 10 minutes away. John Gardner would later take the police to Amber Dubois' body. See, he had pled not guilty to Chelsea King's murder, and said he had nothing to do with Amber Dubois. When the death penalty was on the cards, he quickly changed his mind, not having that, pled guilty to both, and took them to her body, on an Indian reservation 20 miles north of where she vanished.
You admit that on February the 13th, 2009, you took Amber Dubois to a remote area of Paula where you raped and stabbed her. You then buried her in a shallow grave. Do you admit the truth of those facts? Yes. You're also admitting that this murder took place within an hour and a half of your initial contact with Amber Dubois. Do you admit all of those facts as well? Yes.
Now, no link was ever actually made between John and Amber, by the way. I mean, obviously, he killed her, he led him to the body, but, like, independently of that, there was nothing to go on. And he would never confess to, you know, what actually happened.
By accepting this guilty plea, we are obtaining a conviction for the murder of Amber that we would not otherwise have been able to obtain.
He's about to do interviews, though. He's yapping away.
He's confessed to two of the most notorious crimes in San Diego County history.
I actually didn't go out and look for him.
Tonight, for the very first time, John Gardner talks.
What I did is horrible. I mean, I was aware of what I was doing, and I could not stop myself. I was in a major rage and pissed off at my whole life and everybody that's hurt me and blew up, and I hurt the wrong people. I hate myself. I really do. There is no taking back what I did, and if I could, yes, I would. Are you kidding me? But I was out of control. If I was able to stop myself in the middle of it...
This call is being recorded.
I would have, and I could not. I was out of control. It wasn't about their age with me. I actually didn't go out and look for them. Whatever. I did not sit and wait for them. I go to calm myself. I go out and I go for walks to calm myself. I'll go for a walk or I'll go for a drive just to calm down. I was telling them that I just want to plead guilty and I want everyone to know how bad that I felt.
You could have gotten the death penalty.
I didn't care. I still don't. Please. Everything that I've done was horrible. What am I supposed to say? Did I try to prevent it? Yeah, I did.
Why did you admit to killing them?
Because I did. Why would I drag it out? Why would I put those families through going to court and looking at all that evidence and having them sit there and have the DAs and then my lawyers and everybody throw it up in their face. And I tried to get help beforehand. There's so many things that caused me to go into a spiraling downhill that I went in. I was not in control. I called all these mental health places saying, I'm losing control, I need help. They told me, oh, too bad, as soon as they found out I was a sex offender. Now, if I'm denied help, am I fully to blame for my actions? Hell yeah.
He's still playing the victim, though. He is still playing the victim. Which means not only is he a piece of shit, but he's not really owning up to what he did. And using those type of terms, he's, yeah, fucking asshole.
I understand. But could it have been prevented? Yeah, it could have.
Hey, John.
Yeah.
Are there other victims?
I can try.
John Gardner was sentenced to 2 terms of life in prison without the possibility of parole for the rape and murder of both Chelsea and Amber. He also got another 25 years to life for his attack on the woman in December 2009.
This time it is the judgment and sentence of the court that for the crime of murder in the first degree, Chelsea King, under special circumstances, life without the possibility of parole. For the crime of murder in the first degree of Amber Dubois, under special circumstances, life in prison without the possibility of parole. For the crime in count 2, assault with intent to commit a rape with 2 strikes, the term is life in prison, mandatory minimum 25 years.
Look at me. Why am I not surprised?
Now, with our last hope for justice, we depend on the prison community.
There you go.
To slowly and painfully cause your remaining days on this earth to be a living nightmare.
There you go.
At his sentencing, things got heated, especially when the survivor of the December attack spoke. You can see his expression flip in like 1 second.
To make us a little safer by locking him up permanently, and to finally free us from this nightmare that he has created. And finally, to ask him how his nose is.
Jesus Christ, he looks like a fucking monster.
She did that for publicity.
He looks like a fucking idiot.
If I got the death penalty, I would be sitting in a single cell for 25 to 30 years before they ever decide to give me the death penalty. Now, with the sentence that I have, I'm going to be dead within the next 5 years.
Why?
You guys don't know how prison works, do you?
Since all this happened, the parents of both girls have been a huge presence in search and rescue operations around the area and beyond. John, rotten in prison, which is great stuff. And the hunt for a monster was finally over. A hunt which shouldn't have even began when you look at the countless red flags from the original attack, his very short sentencing when he only did 5 years for that, and that, you know, the psychiatrists, the parole violations which were never followed up on. One time he even went to a prison, which is believed he was giving contraband to somebody in prison, and that's an immediate red flag if you're on parole. Like, felony, you get a lot of years for that. Nobody was following him, nobody was keeping up with what he was doing until... yeah. And then he would come out and say, yeah, I tried to get help, but I didn't. I'm the real victim here.
Now, if I'm denied help, am I fully to blame for my actions? Hell yeah. I understand. But could it have been prevented? Yeah, it could have.
Go fuck yourself, though. His name really says it all. What a turd.
I love Mike.
Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you taking the time to be here with this guy. Here, by the way, please, if you're interested, maybe you are, check out my Patreon, where you can get exclusive videos, early access to videos, Discord, a few bits and bobs, and you can also check out some That Chapter t-shirts down there somewhere, I think. Here, go on, please, as always, take care of yourselves, because I love you. Mike out.
To me, one of the best content creators on YouTube, without a doubt. Go show him some love, man. Go like his videos, subscribe to him. He's awesome. He really is just, yeah. But man, what a piece of shit. In that look in his face, man, is just terrible. I'm glad that girl said that in court. Piece of crap. Anyways, yeah, I might put out one more video. It's 11:13 here. Like I said, I got a late jump on everything tonight. It was a day, but I know there's another crazy story. I just need to find it. But yeah, until then, yeah, I might do the part 15 of the series of the missing 411. But either way, yeah, I'll release one more video tonight. So you guys all have a good night until I pop up with another video, and until then, peace.